You have built a life with the pieces you were given: education, career, relationships, responsibilities. From the outside, the puzzle may seem complete, but in the silence of your own consciousness, you feel that the final image does not bring you peace. You feel that there is a dissonance, an echo of a melody that your soul remembers, but that the world has forgotten how to play. It is the feeling of being a foreigner in your own life. That feeling is proof that you are looking at the world through a veil. The veil of ordinary reality. It is not a physical veil. It is a perceptual filter woven with the threads of collective beliefs, of the truths we have accepted without question, of the hypnosis of our five senses that shout at us that matter is solid and separation is real. This veil does not show you the world. It shows you an edited, low-resolution version of it. But there is another way of perceiving, a way of seeing that does not use the eyes of the body but those of the soul. This is the vision of the seer. The seer is not a fortune teller who predicts a fixed future. He is a physicist of consciousness. He is someone who has learned to look beyond form to see energy, to look beyond the event to see the pattern, to look beyond the noise of the world to hear the silent symphony of creation. The seer understands the forbidden secret, that reality is not something to be found, but something to be focused, that the universe is not a place of objects, but an ocean of potentiality waiting for the light of our consciousness to take form. This audiobook is not a map to navigate the old reality. It is the act of tearing the veil. It is an initiation into the art of seeing. You have not come here to learn to be a better character in the play. You have come to remember that you are the author, and to write a new story. First, you must learn to see the blank canvas that is hidden behind everything. The eyes of the soul are ready to open. The journey of the seer begins now. Chapter 1, The First Veil, The Illusion of Solidity. We are born into a perceptual prison, a prison so perfect that we don't know we are in it. The walls of this prison are our five senses. Touch informs us that the world is solid. Sight presents us with a universe of separate objects, defined by clear boundaries. Hearing, smell, and taste reinforce this experience of a world out there, objective, predictable, and fundamentally alien to us. This is the reality of the first veil, the universe of Isaac Newton's classical physics. A cosmos that functions like a great clockwork mechanism, composed of pieces of matter that interact according to fixed and impersonal laws. In this universe, the moon is there orbiting the Earth, regardless of whether anyone is looking at it or not. A chair is a chair. A rock is a rock. Reality is a fact, not a question. This worldview, while practical for navigating our daily lives, is the source of our sense of powerlessness. If the world is a solid, external machine, then we are, at best, small and fragile cogs within it. Our only option is to adapt to its inexorable movement. This perception is what gives rise to victim consciousness. It is the belief that we are the effect of a universe that precedes and dominates us. The first act of the seer is to tear this veil. It is to take a journey not through outer space but through inner space, to the very heart of matter. Let's imagine we embark on that journey now. With the power of our imagination, we begin to reduce our size to become so small that we can explore the true nature of the chair we are sitting on. At first, the wooden surface seems like a vast landscape of ridges and valleys. As we get smaller, we see that it is not a solid surface, but a complex network of cellulose fibers. We reduce our scale even further and enter one of those fibers. Now we see the molecules, those intricate architectures of atoms, held together by invisible forces. Already at this point, solidity has begun to fade, replaced by a dance of interconnected components. But the real journey begins when we choose one of those molecules and dive into the atom that composes it. And here, in the heart of the atom, the first great revelation hits us with the force of a silent thunder. The atom is, in 99.9999% of its volume, empty space. Everything we perceive as solid, our body, the walls of our house, the mountains, is composed at its most fundamental level of an immense void. Solidity is an illusion. It's a trick of our senses. What we perceive as matter is simply the result of electrons, those clouds of probability, spinning at a dizzying speed around an incredibly dense but tiny nucleus, creating a force field that our fingers interpret as solid. Matter is a ghost, it's an echo, a mirage. The seer in training, astonished by this discovery, ventures even deeper. He dives into that vast void inside the atom, searching for the fundamental particle, the ultimate brick of creation. And here the second and most profound revelation awaits him. He finds no things. In the quantum realm there are no solid objects. There are no small marbles of matter. What he finds is a whirlwind of vibrating energy, a dance of entities that refuse to be defined. Entities that, depending on how they are looked at, sometimes behave as particles, localized points, and sometimes as waves, extended fields of potentiality. Reality at its most fundamental level is not made of anything. It is a vibrating field of pure potentiality. It is not a universe of facts, but a universe of possibilities. The seer emerges from this journey with a new vision, with the eyes of the soul open for the first time. He realizes that reality is not a noun but a verb. It is not something that is, but something that is constantly happening, a process of perpetual creation. The basis of the cosmos is not matter, but vibration, energy, and information. This is the truth that cutting-edge science has revealed to us. But the mystics, the seers of antiquity, always knew it. And they went a step further. They asked a question that science still fears to formulate. If the universe is energy, what is energy? What is this primordial vibration that disguises itself as galaxies and human beings? Forbidden metaphysics gives us the final answer, the first and greatest of secrets. Energy is consciousness in motion. Vibration is the thought of a universal mind. We arrive at the first law, the principle that holds everything else. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The universe is not just an impersonal energy field. It is a living, intelligent, and creative consciousness field. The empty space between the stars is not empty. It is filled with an unimaginable intelligence. The dance of subatomic particles is not random. It is the manifestation of a cosmic thought. The entire universe, with all its apparent matter and its laws, is a great symphony, a mental creation that occurs in the mind of an infinite and singular consciousness that we will call the All. This is the first veil torn. The understanding that you do not live in a material universe, but in a mental universe. You do not inhabit a cosmos of objects, but an ocean of consciousness. The microcosm of the mind, the universe in you. This principle teaches us that our individual mind is not an isolated system separate from the universal mind. It is a fractal of it. It is a microcosm that operates under the same laws as the macrocosm. You are a center of thought within a universe of thought. And if the universal mind creates through thought, then you inevitably also do. Your consciousness expresses itself through two great modalities, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is the composer. It is the facet of the universal mind that has been individualized in you and has been given the gift of free will and focused thought. It is the one that writes the melody, the one that chooses the intention. Your subconscious mind is the instrument, and at the same time your connection to the universal orchestra. It does not choose the music, it simply plays it. It is the impersonal and creative medium that takes the score that your conscious mind has written and plays it with absolute fidelity. The law of reflection, which we will explore in the next chapter, is born here. The subconscious, being part of the universal mind, is obedient to the law. It takes the score of your dominant thoughts and beliefs and projects it onto the screen of your reality. It does not judge whether the music is beautiful or dissonant, it simply plays it. The Seer's Workshop integrated practices. The seer who awakens to this truth does not change anything on the outside. First, he becomes a listener, a composer, and a conductor of his own inner universe. His practice is not one of effort, but of consciousness. The initiate on his path to mastery does not take his mental process for granted. He becomes a listener of his own inner orchestra. He knows that the music that habitually plays in his mind is what the great cosmic orchestra will perform as the symphony of his life. His practice is that of meditation and self-observation. He sits in silence and simply listens, without judgment. He becomes a musicologist of his own consciousness. He identifies the recurring themes, the habitual melodies? Is it the sonata of worry, always anticipating the worst-case scenario? Is it the requiem of resentment, repeating the old wounds of the past over and over? Or is it the hymn of gratitude, finding harmony in the present moment? This act of conscious listening is the first step to taking the conductor's baton. The seer is not content with listening to the old music. He begins to compose the new. He knows that every act of deliberate creation begins with the formation of a clear and coherent thought form in the workshop of his imagination. This practice is that of composing the perfect chord. He chooses a quality of being he wishes to embody, such as peace, and then, in the stillness of his mind, he composes his chord. The first note is the thought, the word peace. The second note is the image, a serene lake at dawn, and the third and most important note is the feeling, the physical sensation of calm in his body, the relaxation of his shoulders, the depth of his breath. The seer holds this three-note chord in his consciousness. He feels it vibrate. He perfects it until it resonates with unshakable truth in every cell of his being. He has just composed a fragment of his new reality. Finally, the seer learns to be the conductor of his day. He knows that the first conscious thought of the day sets the tone for the symphony that will unfold. His practice is that of the morning overture. Upon waking, before the noise of the world begins, before the old orchestra begins to play its usual default melody, the seer takes 5 sacred minutes, not to plan his day but to compose it. He chooses the overture. Will it be the allegro of creativity or the adagio of presence? He holds that chord in his being. He feels the state he has chosen. He is handing the score of the day to the universe. The first veil has fallen. The illusion of solidity has vanished, revealing a universe of vibrant consciousness. You can no longer see yourself as a victim of a material world. You are a composer in a mental cosmos. Your thoughts are not reactions, they are creations. Chapter 2, The Second Veil, the Mirror of the Soul. The second forbidden secret, the law that is the foundation of all practical metaphysics, is the principle of correspondence. The ancient masters summarized it in an axiom of implacable beauty and precision. As it is within, so it is without. As it is without, so it is within. This is not a simple poetic phrase. It is perhaps the most precise description of the mechanics of reality. It is the law of the mirror, of the echo. It states, without a doubt, that your external reality, your health, your wealth, your relationships, is not a solid and independent entity. It is a reflection, a flawless, unfiltered, and brutally honest reflection of your dominant state of consciousness. Imagine that your consciousness is a movie projector of infinite power. The movie inside the projector is the sum total of your habitual beliefs, thoughts, and emotions. When you turn on the projector, the movie is emitted and projected onto the vast screen of the universe. What you see on the screen is not the universe itself. It is the movie you are projecting. Most of us spend our entire lives trying to change the movie by shouting at the screen. We complain about the images, we fight against them, we try to paint over them from the outside, without realizing that the only way to change the reflection is to enter the projection booth and change the movie we are emitting from within. The world is not doing anything to you. It is showing you with relentless precision what movie you are projecting. Your life is not something that happens to you. It is a feedback loop. It is the echo of the song you are singing in the silence of your soul. To understand how this mirror works, we must analyze it on the 3 great planes of human experience. The mental plane, the reflection of your beliefs. Your inner world on a mental level is composed of your beliefs and your dominant thought patterns. This is the script that runs in the projector of your mind. The external world reflects this script with perfect fidelity, manifesting as the recurring themes and situations in your life. Think of the dramas that seem to repeat in your existence, often with different characters, but with the same script. Perhaps you have the abandonment pattern. You change partners, but each one, in one way or another, ends up abandoning you. Perhaps you have the non-recognition pattern. You change jobs, but in each one you feel invisible, undervalued, overlooked for promotions. Perhaps you have the almost success pattern. You get right to the edge of a great achievement, and at the last minute something always goes wrong and ruins everything. These are not destinies. They are reflections. They are the external manifestation of a root belief, of a subconscious program. The person with the abandonment pattern probably holds the belief, "I am not worthy of unconditional love," or "people always leave." The person with the non-recognition pattern believes deep down that "my work is not good enough." And the person with the almost success pattern probably harbors a deep fear of success and visibility. The seer, when faced with one of these recurring patterns, does not ask with frustration, "Why is this happening to me again?" He asks with a deep curiosity, "Interesting. What belief within me is still so powerful as to project this same movie over and over again?" The external pattern is not the prison. The prison is the internal belief, and the pattern is simply the jailer who shows you with brutal kindness where the lock is. The emotional plane, the reflection of your vibration. Your habitual emotional state, your vibration, is perhaps the most powerful aspect of your inner world. The universe is a field of resonance. It attracts what vibrates at the same frequency. The reflection of your emotional state manifests in the quality of your relationships and the atmosphere of your environment. If you live in a state of unexpressed anger or resentment, you will attract people and situations into your life that provoke you, that push that same anger button. The world will constantly give you a reason to be angry, because anger is the frequency you are emitting. If you live in a state of constant anxiety and fear, you will perceive the world as a dangerous place. The mirror of life will show you alarming news, untrustworthy people, and reasons to worry at every turn. On the contrary, if you deliberately cultivate a state of inner peace, you will begin to notice a miraculous change. The people around you will seem calmer. The situations that used to stress you out will lose their power over you. It's not that the world has changed, it's that you have changed the frequency of your receiver, and now you tune into harmony instead of chaos. The physical plane, the reflection of your embodiment. Finally, the mirror of correspondence manifests on the densest plane, the physical. Your health and your wealth are the most tangible reflections of your inner state. Your body is the most intimate mirror. An inner state of relentless self-criticism, unresolved guilt or chronic resentment, as we have seen, translates into a body chemistry of stress. And this chemistry, sustained over time, is reflected in the body as muscle tension, inflammation, a weakened immune system, and eventually as illness. A physical symptom is not an enemy. It is the echo of an emotional scream that has not been heard. Your financial situation is a brutally honest reflection of your beliefs about abundance and deservingness. The lack of money in your bank account is not the problem, it is the symptom. The real problem is the poverty consciousness within you. It is the belief that you don't deserve it, that it's difficult, that it's selfish. The external world simply proves you right. The work of the alchemist, therefore, is never on the outside. It is useless to try to clean a stain on the mirror. The real work is to clean the stain on your own face. When you change the cause, what's inside, the effect, what's outside, must change by law. It is inevitable. The initiate in this knowledge transforms his relationship with life. He stops being a fighter and becomes a diagnostician. Faced with an unwanted reflection, he does not lament. He does not blame. He retreats to the silent workshop of his consciousness and begins the work of self-inquiry. He asks himself, if this external situation is a perfect mirror, what is it showing me about my own inner script? The alchemical change, stopping the fight against the reflection. This is the definition of struggle, effort, and frustration. It is a guaranteed path to exhaustion because energy is wasted on the effect, not on the cause. The alchemical change, the turning point of the seer, occurs at the moment he makes the radical decision to turn his back on the mirror. We stop obsessing over the external world, and we direct all our attention, all our power, all our intention to the only place where true change is possible, the origin of the image, to our own inner state. The seer knows that his only job is not to do anything in the world. His only job is to change the movie that is projected in his mind, to polish the lens of his perception. And he has an unshakable faith that if he performs this inner work diligently, the mirror by law must change its reflection. It is not a hope, it is a certainty. The mirror is not our judge, it is our greatest teacher, our most honest partner in the game of creation. It is not there to punish us, but to reveal to us. It shows us, without fail, where our true work lies. The workshop of the Master of Reflections, integrated practices. The seer, faced with an unwanted reflection, does not lament. He does not blame. He retreats to the silent workshop of his consciousness and gets to work. His work is not one of physical effort, but of a deep self-inquiry and deliberate reprogramming. One of the most fundamental practices in this workshop is the correspondence journal. The master, at the end of his day, or when faced with a challenge, takes his journal not to complain about circumstances, but to decipher them. He describes the external event, the reflection, with an almost scientific objectivity, and then he asks the sacred question: if this external situation were a perfect mirror of my inner state, what belief, what feeling, what story within me would it be reflecting? Imagine someone whose constant reflection is a lack of recognition at work. In his journal, he does not write, "My boss is ungrateful." He writes, "External reflection. I have completed an important project and have not received any recognition." And then he begins the inquiry. What is the internal cause of this reflection? Perhaps it reflects my own belief that I am not good enough, my own inability to recognize my own worth. Perhaps it reflects my fear of becoming visible, and for that reason, I attract situations where I remain invisible. Or perhaps it reflects my own stinginess in giving recognition to others. This process of honest self-inquiry is the first step to identifying the movie that needs to be changed. Once the internal image to be changed has been identified, the master practices the as-if protocol. He dedicates himself to embodying the inner state that corresponds to the external reality he desires. He does not wait for the reflection to change to feel different. He feels different so that the reflection will change. If he wishes to be recognized, he does not beg for recognition. He enters his mental workshop and dresses in the garment of recognition. For 15 minutes a day, he deliberately cultivates the feeling of already being valued, competent, and successful. He walks like that person. He talks like that person. He feels the calm and security of that person in his own body. He is creating the internal cause, the new image, that the mirror must eventually reflect. Finally, the seer learns to read every small reflection of his day as a message, as a personal oracle. He transforms the world from a series of random events into a constant and meaningful dialogue. If someone is unexpectedly kind, he does not consider it a coincidence. He recognizes it as a reflection of the kindness he has been cultivating in his own heart, and he thanks the mirror. If he faces a frustrating setback, he does not see it as bad luck. He sees it as an invitation from the mirror to examine the frustration or resistance that may be within himself. Every moment becomes an opportunity to calibrate the image he is projecting. You are no longer a victim of the world. You are its origin. You have learned the second great law, the one that places you at the center of your own universe. Chapter 3. The Third Veil, the Sound of Silence. Our physical ears present us with a world that, for the most part, seems silent. We hear the obvious sounds, conversations, traffic, music. But beyond this narrow range of perception, we believe silence reigns. This is one of the great illusions of our limited senses. The truth that metaphysics and cutting-edge physics reveal to us is that the universe is not a silent place. It is a symphony of infinite complexity and magnificence. Everything, absolutely everything, from the farthest galaxy to the smallest particle, is in a state of constant vibration. Everything sings its own unique song. This is the principle of vibration. The ancient axiom expresses it with absolute clarity. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. Modern science has confirmed this mystical truth. String theory, in its search for the fundamental particle, postulates that at the deepest level, everything that exists is not made of things, but of tiny strings of energy vibrating at different frequencies. The frequency of a string's vibration determines whether it manifests as an electron, a photon, or a quark. In essence, the universe is not a set of objects, but an orchestra of vibrating strings. The solidity of matter is an illusion. It is the result of a vibration so fast and dense that our senses interpret it as stable. What you call your body is not a solid structure. It is a symphony of billions of atoms vibrating in a coherent dance. If everything in the universe is vibration, then the law of attraction is revealed not as a magical concept, but as a principle of physics. Resonance. Imagine two identical tuning forks. If you strike one and make it vibrate, and you bring the second one near, the latter, without being touched, will begin to vibrate at the same frequency. It will resonate with the first. It does not respond to tuning forks of a different note. It only responds to the vibration that is identical to its own. In this great cosmic orchestra, you are a tuning fork, and your dominant state of consciousness is the note you are constantly emitting. The human instrument, composer of frequencies. To become a master seer, you must understand how you compose and emit your personal frequency. You are an instrument of astonishing complexity, and your music is created on 3 levels. 1. The mind as composer. Thoughts are notes. Every thought you have is not a silent event. It is a vibration. A thought of judgment or criticism is a dissonant and sharp note. A thought of gratitude or appreciation is a harmonious and warm note. Your habitual inner dialogue is the main melody you are composing every instant. If the melody is one of worry and fear, you are writing a low-frequency score. If the melody is one of confidence and possibility, you are writing a high-frequency one. To the heart is an amplifier. Emotions are the music. If thoughts are the notes on the score, emotions are the volume and intensity with which they are played. They are the music itself. The heart, as we have already explored, is the great amplifier of your being. Its electromagnetic field takes the melody of your thoughts and turns it into a powerful emission that radiates into the universe. It is your emotional state that defines your true vibrational signature. The frequency of fear and anxiety is chaotic, fast, irregular, and incoherent. It is like a radio full of static. When you emit this frequency by the law of resonance, you can only attract into your life events, people, and circumstances that vibrate in that same band of chaos and danger. The frequency of anger and resentment is heavy, dense, and of low vibration. It is like a deep, distorted note that makes the foundations tremble. By emitting it, you attract conflicts, power struggles, and situations that validate your bitterness. The frequency of love and gratitude is coherent, smooth, harmonious, and expansive. It is like a perfect chord that resonates with a crystalline clarity. When you emit this frequency, you become a magnet for grace, synchronicity, unexpected help, and loving relationships. The universe does not respond to the lyrics of your song, your superficial thoughts. It responds to the music of your heart, your dominant emotional vibration. 3. The body as a sound box. Finally, your physical body is the sound box of your instrument. It is not just a passive spectator of this inner music, it vibrates with it. When you chronically emit the frequency of fear, your body resonates with that music. Your muscles tense, your digestion is altered, your immune system weakens, your body becomes the physical manifestation of dissonance. When you emit the frequency of peace, your body resonates with it. Your muscles relax, your cells regenerate, your system enters a state of balance and healing. Your body becomes the embodiment of harmony. Disease from this perspective is not an attack. It is a sustained vibrational dissonance over time, and healing is the act of retuning your instrument. The seer understands that the secret to controlling his reality is not to fight the external world, it is to become the master composer of his own inner world. It is to learn to deliberately choose the music he emits, knowing that the universe, like a concert hall with perfect acoustics, will return a faithful echo of his own song. The workshop of the conscious composer. Integrated practices. The initiate in the art of seeing understands that he is not a victim of his own inner music. He is its composer and its conductor. His practice does not focus on silencing the orchestra, but on teaching it to play a new, higher symphony. The first practice is that of the vibrational tuner. The seer becomes a master of self-observation of his own frequency. He knows that his body is the instrument that tells him, in real time, what note he is playing. Several times a day, the initiate pauses. He closes his eyes, and he brings his attention to his body, and he asks himself the musician's question, Am I in expansion or contraction? He knows that contraction, tightness in the chest and not in the stomach, slumped shoulders, is the physical signature of low-frequency vibrations, fear, anger, scarcity. It is dissonance. He knows that expansion, openness in the heart, a feeling of lightness, deep breathing, is the signature of high-frequency vibrations, love, gratitude, confidence. It is harmony. This simple check, this somatic tuning, is his guidance system. He does not judge the note, he simply recognizes it. Once he has recognized a dissonant note, the composer does not fight it. He knows that resisting a note is like trying to stop a vibration with your hands. It is only amplified. Instead, he practices the art of vibrational transmutation. The initiate knows that the fastest way to change his vibration is not by fighting the negative emotion, but by deliberately introducing a positive emotion of a higher frequency. And the most potent note, the master chord that has the power to harmonize any dissonance, is gratitude. The seer, feeling the contraction of fear, does not focus on the fear. Instead, he deliberately looks for something he can feel genuine gratitude for, no matter how small. It can be gratitude for his breath, for the sun, for a happy memory. He immerses himself in the feeling of that gratitude, and he feels how the expansive warmth of that high frequency begins to dissolve from within the contractive cold of fear. He has not fought the darkness, he has turned on a light. Finally, the master composer knows that consistency is the key to retraining his orchestra. His practice is that of harmonic immersion. He dedicates time each day, not to think about his desire, but to feel his desire. He sits in silence and bathes in the vibration of his already fulfilled reality. He feels the peace of healing. He feels the freedom of abundance. He feels the joy of connection. It is not an act of fantasy. It is a vibrational rehearsal. He is tuning his instrument, his being, to the exact frequency of the reality he chooses to create. He is teaching his orchestra the new symphony, and through persistent repetition, this new symphony becomes his natural state, his fundamental note. You have torn the third veil. You have discovered that reality is a symphony of vibrations, and that you are the composer. You have learned to listen to the music of your soul and to deliberately tune your instrument. Chapter 4. Focusing the gaze, the power of intention. To shape energy, to compose a melody from the primordial sound, the seer must learn to master his most powerful tool, the one that directs consciousness and collapses the wave of possibility into the particle of experience. He must learn to master his gaze. We now enter the true training of the seer, beginning with the fundamental power that precedes all deliberate creation, the power of intention. The scattered gaze, reality by default. Most human beings live in a state of scattered gaze. Their consciousness, their inner eye, is like a camera without a cameraman, shaken by the winds of external stimuli and internal thoughts. Their gaze jumps without control from one worry to the next, from a phone notification to a memory of the past, from a fantasy of the future to a distraction in the present. This scattered gaze, this fragmented attention, is the cause of a fragmented life. When your light focus is dispersed in 1,000 directions, it lacks the coherence or the power to illuminate anything with clarity. It projects a blurry, chaotic, and confused reality, a perfect reflection of the state of the mind that originates it. The seer who awakens to his power understands that his first act of sovereignty is to reclaim control of his own gaze. It is to learn to calm the storm of thoughts, to be able to find the calm eye of the hurricane. That eye is the point of pure consciousness, the I am from which the gaze can be directed with a deliberate purpose. To focus the gaze and create a powerful intention, the seer must master the two lenses of his inner eye, the lens of attention and the lens of imagination. The first lens, attention, the power to concentrate the light. We have been conditioned to think of attention as something we pay, as if it were a currency we spend. But this is a limited view. Attention, for the seer, is not something that is spent. It is the very light of consciousness. It is the focus, the ray of light that illuminates a single possibility in the vast quantum field. The fundamental law of energy is this: where your attention goes, your power flows. Your vital energy, your creative force, your capacity for manifestation, Everything flows through the narrow channel of your attention. What you focus on in a sustained way grows, is nourished, becomes magnetized. What you withdraw your attention from withers, loses energy, dissolves back into the field of potentiality. There are no exceptions to this law. Imagine a person whose attention is habitually focused on their debts. Every day, they dedicate hours of their mental energy to reviewing what they owe, worrying about how they will pay it, feeling the contraction of the fear of scarcity. With their attention, they are illuminating, energizing, and magnifying the reality of debt. They are, without knowing it, using their divine power to create more of what they don't want. Now imagine another person in the same circumstances, but who has learned to direct their gaze. They acknowledge the existence of the debts, but they deliberately choose to withdraw their attention from them and place it, with an iron discipline, on the creation of value, on the search for creative solutions, on the vision of their prosperity. With their attention, they are watering the seed of abundance. Both people may be working the same number of hours, but their reality will unfold in radically different ways because the energy that directs their actions is opposite. The seer, therefore, becomes a jealous guardian of his attention. He knows it is his most sacred capital. He refuses to hand it over cheaply to the distractions of the world or the dramas of his own mind. The initiate's practice is that of the calisthenics of the soul's eye. Through meditation and concentration on a single task, he trains his muscle of attention. Every time his mind wanders and he, with a gentle but firm will, brings it back to its object of focus, he is strengthening his ability to hold the gaze, to keep the ray of light fixed on the goal he has chosen. The second lens, imagination, the power to shape the light. If attention is the light, imagination is the shape we give that light. If attention is the projector, imagination is the movie being projected. Focused attention without a clear image is just a bright but formless ray of light. An image without focused attention is a movie stored in its can, without a projector to give it life. Imagination is the seer's true workshop. It is the faculty that allows us to experience realities that do not yet exist on the physical plane. It is the quantum simulator of our consciousness. The seer understands a radical truth. The imaginal world, the world of consciousness, is in a sense more real than the physical world, because the imaginal world is the world of cause. The physical world is simply the world of effect. Everything you see around you, from the phone in your hand to the chair you are sitting in, first existed as an image held in someone's imagination. The seer's practice is therefore the sensory rehearsal in the theater of his mind. He does not limit himself to thinking about his desire. He inhabits it with all his senses in his imagination. He doesn't just think about his dream house. He closes his eyes and, in his imagination, walks through its halls. He feels the texture of the wood under his feet. He smells the scent of the garden through the open window. He hears the laughter of his loved ones in the living room. He doesn't just think about healing. He feels vitality vibrating in every cell of his body. He sees himself running, jumping, breathing with absolute ease and joy. This act of sensory immersion is what convinces the subconscious mind that the experience is real. It is creating a memory of the future so vivid and so powerful that the body begins to change its chemistry to correspond with it, and the quantum field begins to reorganize itself to reflect it. The fusion, the birth of a true intention. A true intention, one that has the power to mold reality, is born from the fusion of these two lenses. It is the act of holding a clear and multi-sensory image on the screen of the imagination, illuminated by the unshakable ray of focused attention. When these two powers unite, they create a thought form, a vortex of coherent energy in the quantum field. It is a clear and energized architectural blueprint. The heart of the gaze, the power of feeling. This is the secret that unites the world of the mind with that of matter. If attention is the light and imagination is the form, feeling is the electrical current that lights the lamp. A thought without feeling is a command without authority. It is a whisper. A thought charged with the conviction of a deep feeling is a decree. It is thunder. The seer understands that the subconscious is the emotional mind. It is not impressed by our logical arguments, it is impressed by the truth of our heart. Feeling is the language it understands without translation, the signature it recognizes as authentic. The art of the seer, therefore, is not to think positive. It is to feel with mastery. It is the ability to deliberately generate, from within, the emotional signature of the reality one chooses to create. The initiate does not wait for the reflection in the mirror to change to feel good. He feels good so that the reflection in the mirror changes. He inverts the sequence of creation. And of all emotions, there are three that are particularly potent in the seer's workshop, three high-octane fuels for manifestation. The first is gratitude. As we have already explored, gratitude is the frequency of reception. It is the emotional signature of the wish already fulfilled. When you impregnate your vision with the feeling of deep and sincere gratitude, you are sending the clearest possible signal to the quantum field that the creation is already finished. The second is love. Not romantic love, but impersonal and expansive love. The feeling of appreciation, of connection, of unity with your desire. When you love your creation, when you feel genuine appreciation for the house, the job, or the relationship you are visualizing, you dissolve all resistance. Love is the most coherent and harmonious force in the universe. And the third, often the most underestimated, is peace or relief. It is the serene emotion that comes after the struggle is over. It is the feeling of, it is done. When you can evoke in your body the sensation of a deep sigh of relief, the calm that comes when the problem has been solved, you are declaring to your subconscious that the battle is over and victory is assured. The workshop of the seer's eye. Integrated practices. The seer does not leave his practice to chance. He becomes an artist of intention, a master of the inner gaze. His practice is not a forced exercise, but a ritual of alignment. The initiate knows that for his intention to have power, he must first achieve a state of inner coherence. Therefore, he begins his practice in silence, using his breath to calm his nervous system, to move from the state of alertness, beta, to the receptive state of calm, alpha. Once in this state of stillness, the seer creates what could be called a feeling sigil. It is not a visual symbol, but an emotional anchor. He distills his complex imaginary scene into its purest essence, a single powerful sensation. If his desire is financial freedom, perhaps the feeling sigil is that exact feeling of serene relief he would feel upon knowing that all his debts are paid. If his desire is a loving relationship, the sigil could be the feeling of calm security he feels upon holding his partner's hand. The initiate dedicates time to identifying and familiarizing himself with this feeling sigil. He practices it, he evokes it, until he can access it at will. Then he begins the practice of daily impregnation. Every day, preferably in the drowsy state before sleep, he retreats to his inner sanctuary. Not to ask, not to wish, but to imprint. He holds his feeling sigil in the center of his being. He bathes in that emotion. He allows it to saturate every cell of his body. There is no effort. There is no struggle. It is an act of marinating his consciousness in the frequency of his wish fulfilled. He is imprinting his intention into the quantum field, not with the force of a hammer, but with the gentle persistence of water that drop by drop carves the rock. The seer's intention is not a simple desire. It is a work of art. It is a perfect fusion of the clarity of the mind, the vividness of the imagination, and above all, the conviction of the heart. Chapter 5. Coloring the Vision, the Power of Emotion. Now we come to the most dynamic, most potent, and often most misunderstood force in the entire creative process. The rational mind, trained in logic, often despises emotion. It sees it as an enemy of clarity, a chaotic force that must be controlled or suppressed. But the seer knows the truth. Emotion is not the enemy of creation. It is its fuel. A thought without emotion is an engine without gas. A vision without feeling is a seed planted in dead soil. It is emotion, feeling, that takes an abstract idea and turns it into a magnetic force, a command that the universe cannot ignore. The heart's transmission, the physics of feeling. To understand why feeling is the true creative power, we must remember the vibrational nature of reality. The universe is not a field of objects, but an ocean of frequencies. And your emotional state is the frequency you are constantly transmitting to that ocean. The vibrational signature. Every emotion has a unique vibrational signature. Fear, anger, and frustration are low, chaotic, and incoherent frequencies. They are like a radio station, broadcasting pure static. Love, gratitude, and joy are high, ordered, and harmonious frequencies. They are a clear, powerful signal. The law of resonance dictates that the universe, as a perfect receiver, can only tune in and reflect the frequency you are emitting. Your thoughts may be trying to tune into the abundance station, but if your heart is transmitting the static of fear, fear is the only music you will hear in your reality. The heart field. Modern science has begun to validate this ancient wisdom. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the human heart generates an electromagnetic field that is up to 5,000 times more powerful than the brain's. This field, which radiates several meters from your body, is your true energetic signature. And the information this field transmits is determined, moment by moment, by your emotional state. When you feel emotions of gratitude and appreciation, your heart rate becomes coherent, creating a smooth and harmonious wave. This coherence signal not only tells every cell in your body to enter a mode of repair and growth, it also emits a powerful signal of order and harmony to the quantum field. The language of the subconscious. Your subconscious mind, the master builder that translates your blueprints into physical reality, is the emotional mind. It does not understand the language of logic, but it understands the language of feeling perfectly. An emotion is a direct, non-verbal command. Feeling the joy of your wish fulfilled is the fastest and most effective way to convince your subconscious that this reality is already a fact. The seer therefore knows that his job is not just to think about his vision. His job is to color it. It is to take the black and white image of his imagination and paint it with the vibrant, saturated colors of the emotion of the wish fulfilled. The anatomy of creative emotion. Not all emotions are equal in their creative power. There are two categories: emotions born of lack and those born of wholeness. Emotions of lack. These are emotions like longing, intense desire, or need. Although they seem positive, they are born from the perception that you do not have what you want. When you long for something, you are vibrationally emitting its absence. These emotions, while they can give you an initial impulse, often create resistance and keep your desire at a distance. Emotions of wholeness, the creator emotions. These are the emotions you experience when your wish is already a fact. They are the ones you must cultivate in your inner workshop. The three most potent are gratitude. It is the frequency of reception. It is the feeling of thank you because it's already mine. It is the most powerful emotion to seal your creation. Joy relief. It is the expansive feeling of freedom, of satisfaction, of the problem solved. It is the silent celebration of success. Love appreciation. It is the vibration of unity. It is loving your creation, appreciating the beauty of your vision. Love is the most harmonious force in the universe and dissolves all resistance. The art of the seer is to learn to generate these emotions of wholeness at will, to feel them in his body as a present reality, even when the mirror of the world still shows a different image. The challenge of feeling, the paradox of faith. Here we encounter the central paradox that stops many. How can I feel the joy of something that hasn't happened? Isn't that pretending? The seer understands that it is not about pretending. It is about creating. You are not pretending an emotion. You are using your power of consciousness to deliberately generate a biochemical and energetic state in your body. You are the alchemist in your inner laboratory, mixing the ingredients of memory, imagination, and physiology to produce the elixir of feeling. You are not lying to reality. You are presenting it with a new and higher truth. You are being loyal to the vision of your soul over the tyranny of your senses. This is the true meaning of faith. Faith is not blind belief. It is the ability to hold an emotional state that corresponds to your desire, regardless of external circumstances. The seer's job is not to wait to feel good in order to create. It is to feel good in order to create. The workshop of creative emotion. The seer knows that he cannot think his way to a new emotion. The logical mind is the wrong tool. He must instead use the doors that lead directly to the chamber of the heart. The first practice, the somatic door, the body as an instrument. The initiate knows that emotion is not an abstract concept. it is an experience of the body. The fastest and most direct way to change a feeling is to change physiology. The seer does not wait to feel confident to act confidently. He acts confidently to feel confident. The breath of expansion. His practice begins with breath. He knows that low vibration emotions, fear, sadness, produce shallow, chest-level breathing. High vibration emotions, joy, peace, are associated with deep, diaphragmatic breathing. To change his state, the seer simply begins to breathe slowly, deeply and rhythmically, feeling his abdomen expand. This simple act sends a signal to his nervous system that everything is okay, and the chemistry of calm begins to flow. The power pose. The seer understands that his posture is a vibrational statement. He stands and consciously adopts the physiology of his wish fulfilled. He straightens his back, relaxes his shoulders, opens his chest, and lifts his chin slightly. He holds this pose for 2 minutes. This is not an act of arrogance, but of neurological reprogramming. He is ordering his body to produce the chemistry of confidence and power. The deliberate smile. Even in the midst of a challenge, the seer practices smiling. A genuine smile, or even a forced one at first, sends a signal to the brain to release serotonin and endorphins. It's a biological hack that tells his system, we are safe. We are in a state of well-being. By using his body as an instrument, the seer does not wait for the music of joy to play. He takes his instrument and starts playing it himself. The second practice, the resonance chamber of memory. The seer understands that his past is not a sentence, but a library of emotional frequencies that he can access at will. To color his vision of the future, he often borrows the most vibrant colors from his past. This is the practice of emotional memory. The initiate, in the stillness of his inner workshop, chooses the exact emotion he wants to feel, the one that corresponds to his wish fulfilled. Let's say it's the feeling of triumph and achievement. Then he becomes an archaeologist of his own life. He scans his memory for a moment, no matter how small, where he felt that emotion purely and potently. Perhaps it was winning a sports competition in his youth, receiving a good grade, completing a difficult project at work, or learning to ride a bicycle. Once he has found the memory, he doesn't just think about it. He immerses himself in it. He relives it in the first person with all his senses. He sees what he saw, hears what he heard, feels the sun on his skin. And as the emotion of triumph begins to grow in his body, he makes the key move of the alchemist. He lets go of the story, but he retains the feeling. He releases the specific details of the memory and holds on only to the pure sensation, to the vibration of achievement. And it is this pure vibration that he now projects onto his vision of the future. He is taking the energy of a past triumph and using it to fuel the creation of a future triumph. The third practice, the auditory catalyst. The seer knows that sound is organized vibration, and that music is perhaps the fastest and most powerful shortcut to changing an emotional state. He becomes a conscious DJ of his own soul. The practice is to create state symphonies. The initiate no longer listens to music passively. He uses it as a tuning tool. He creates specific playlists designed to evoke concrete states. He has his symphony of courage, full of epic music that makes him feel invincible, and he listens to it before an important presentation. He has his symphony of gratitude, full of soft, moving melodies, which he uses in his morning practice. He has his symphony of focus, perhaps classical Baroque music or binaural beats, which he uses during his deep work blocks. He knows that by immersing himself in these frequencies, he is giving his nervous system a clear and powerful instruction on how it should feel. He is using an external vibration to catalyze an internal vibrational transformation. A vision without emotion is a map. A vision with emotion is a portal. The seer is not a simple thinker. He is an artist of feeling. He does not limit himself to seeing his new reality. He colors it with the vibration of his own heart, making it so real, so magnetic, that the universe cannot resist its call. Chapter 6. Decreeing what has been seen, the power of the word. We must use the tool that anchors the ethereal in the physical plane, the one that takes the silent vibration of feeling and gives it an audible and resonant form. We must tear the sixth veil and rediscover the lost power of the creative word. We must explore the power of the word. At the heart of almost every great mystical and world creation tradition lies a profound truth. The universe was created through a sound, a vibration, a word. In the beginning was the Word, the Gospel of John tells us. The Sanskrit word Om is considered the primordial vibration from which all creation emanates. The ancient Aramaic word abracadabra, which we have relegated to a magic trick, actually means, I create as I speak. These are not simple poetic myths. They are instruction manuals for the physics of consciousness. They teach us that the word language is not a passive tool we use to describe a pre-existing reality. It is the active tool with which we create reality. The act of naming is an act of invoking. A thought is energy. An emotion is energy in motion. But a spoken word is energy that has been given a form, a structure, and a physical vibration. It is a crystallized thought. It is a decree. It is a spell you cast into the field of reality, a command that your subconscious mind and the universe hear and execute with relentless fidelity. The physics of a spoken decree. To understand why your voice is a magic wand, we must analyze how a spoken decree works on the three planes of your being. 1. The neurological impact. When you simply think an affirmation, you activate certain neural networks in your brain. But when you speak it, the process becomes exponentially more powerful. By speaking, you not only activate the thought centers, but you also activate Broca's area, the speech production center, the motor cortex to move your lips, tongue, and vocal cords, and crucially, the auditory cortex by listening to yourself. You are creating a multisensory feedback loop. Your brain does not just think the idea, it formulates it, articulates it, and hears it back. This process creates a much richer and more real experience, etching the new neural groove with much greater depth and speed. You are demonstrating to your brain, through physical action, that this new idea is important. 2. The vibrational impact. Every word you utter is a sound, and every sound is a vibration. These sound waves do not stop at your eardrums. They travel through the air and penetrate every cell of your body. Cymatics experiments, which show how sound creates complex geometric patterns in sand or water, give us a glimpse of this principle. Your words are literally organizing the energy around you. When you speak words of fear and complaint, you are emitting a chaotic and dissonant frequency that generates stress in your energy field and in your biology. When you speak words of love, power, and gratitude, you are emitting a coherent and harmonious frequency that calms your nervous system and aligns your field with the forces of creation. 3. The subconscious impact. Your subconscious mind is deeply influenced by what it hears repeatedly, especially from a voice it considers an authority. During your childhood, that authority was your parents. Now, in your adult life, the voice of greatest authority for your subconscious is your own. When you speak with conviction and feeling, your subconscious does not perceive it as a suggestion. It perceives it as a direct command from the captain. You are hypnotizing yourself. You are assuming the role of the programmer, and your own voice becomes the programming language that rewrites your internal code. The supreme decree, the power of I am. Within the vast universe of language, there are two words that contain unparalleled creative power. They are the master command, the declaration of the first cause. They are the words, I am. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, when Moses is asked for the name of God, the answer is, I am that I am. The Vedantists of India teach that the ultimate realization is the recognition of the I am as pure consciousness, the Atman. When you utter the words I am, you are not simply describing yourself. You are invoking the creative power of the universe. You are declaring your own divinity, your identity as an expression of the universal mind. The subconscious mind is absolutely literal. Whatever you put after I am, it accepts as an accomplished fact about your identity, and it immediately gets to work to reflect that identity in your reality. Think about how often we use this power against ourselves. I am so clumsy, a command to create clumsiness. I am a financial disaster, a decree to manifest scarcity. I am this way, I will never change, a life sentence that locks you in the past. I am always tired, an instruction for your body to generate fatigue. The first act of mastery is to become a guardian of these two words. It is to refuse to put anything after I am that you do not wish to see manifested in your life. And the second step is to use them deliberately to forge your new reality. I am affirmations are not about what you want to have. They are about who you choose to be. Instead of I want to have more confidence, you declare I am absolute confidence. Instead of I want to heal my body, you declare I am the perfect expression of health and vitality. Instead of I want to get rich, you declare I am a magnet for abundance and prosperity. By doing this, you stop being a seeker who pursues a state. You become the embodiment of that state. And by the law of reflection, your external world must mold itself to reflect the new identity you have declared. The workshop of the creative word, integrated practices. The initiate in the art of seeing understands that the word is not a mere accessory to his creative practice. It is one of his most potent tools, the chisel that gives definite form to energy. Therefore, he becomes a craftsman of language, a poet of his own reality. The first practice, the linguistic audit. The seer knows that, in order to decree a new reality, he must first become aware of the unconscious decrees he has been uttering his whole life. He embarks on an audit of his vocabulary. For a week, the initiate becomes an observer of his own speech, both internal and external. He keeps a small log. His only mission is to catch and write down every time he uses words of powerlessness. Words like I will try, which are a declaration of non-commitment. Words like I hope, which place power outside of him. Words like I need, which are an affirmation of lack. Words like I should, which are born of guilt and obligation. At the end of the week, he reads his log and becomes aware of how often he has been using his verbal power to sabotage himself. He does not judge himself. He simply observes the program. The second practice, linguistic alchemy. Once he is aware of his limiting language, the seer begins the work of transmutation. He creates a power glossary in his journal. He takes each of the words of powerlessness he has identified, and next to it writes its conscious replacement. I will try is transmuted into I choose or I decide. I hope is transmuted into I know or I trust. I need is transmuted into I am or I have. I should is transmuted into I want or I commit to. The daily practice consists of conscious replacement. Every time he catches himself about to use one of the old words, he pauses, breathes, and deliberately chooses the new one. It is a neural retraining that, over time, turns the language of power into his natural way of speaking. The third practice, the master decree and the mirror ritual. The seer knows that for a profound transformation, he must install a new master decree in his subconscious. He designs his decree. He chooses the identity he chooses to embody and formulates it into a powerful I am decree. I am the embodiment of serene confidence and creative success. My worth is intrinsic, and the universe responds to my vision with an abundance of opportunities. The mirror ritual. This is the most direct practice. The initiate stands in front of his own reflection, looks deeply into his own eyes, and pronounces his decree aloud. He does it with the authority of a king who dictates a new law for his kingdom. He feels the vibration of the words. He observes the resistance of the old program, and with a sovereign calm, he again declares his new truth. I am confidence. He practices it every day, knowing that each repetition is carving a new reality into the fabric of his being. The fourth practice, the environmental decree. Finally, the seer knows that his environment is a mirror he can use to reinforce his new programming. He writes his master decree on sticky notes and places them in strategic locations. On his computer monitor, on the bathroom mirror, on the dashboard of his car. Every time his gaze falls on the note, he does not have to repeat it 100 times. He simply reads it once, takes a deep breath, and reconnects for an instant with the feeling of that truth. He is creating an environment that constantly reflects the new reality he is choosing before the great mirror of the external world catches up. Your words are not air. They are matter in vibration. They are the bricks and mortar of your symphony. The world you experience is nothing more than the architecture of your habitual vocabulary. You have become a master linguist, an alchemist who knows that to change the reflection in the mirror, he must first change the word that describes it. You have learned to decree your new vision. Chapter 7. Seeing Through Time, the Secret of Finished Creation. Our perception of reality is governed by a silent tyranny, the belief in linear time. We have been conditioned to see existence as a single straight line that extends from an immutable past to an uncertain future. We live trapped on this line. The past is a burden from which we cannot escape. Our mistakes, our wounds, our stories become the ineluctable cause of our present. I am this way because of what happened to me. The future is a destiny that awaits us, something we must chase, fear, or wait for. Our happiness, our wholeness is always up ahead on the line. I'll be happy when I get... And the present, in this view, shrinks to a fleeting and almost non-existent instant, a simple bridge between the weight of the past and the anxiety for the future. This perception of time is the source of most of our suffering. It keeps us in a state of perpetual waiting, of fighting against what was, and of longing for what is not yet. But the seer, at the peak of his training, learns to see through this veil, and he discovers the most liberating truth of all, a truth that mystics have taught for eons, and that the most advanced theoretical physics is beginning to glimpse. Linear time is a perceptual illusion. The creation is finished, the mystical secret. The great metaphysical master Neville Goddard taught one of the most radical and powerful ideas. Creation is already finished. What does this mean? It means that every possible reality, every possible event, every possible version of your life is not something you will create in the future. It already exists right now as a completed potentiality in the infinite mind of the universe, in the quantum field. The universe is not a novel being written. It is an infinite library. In this library, all possible books have already been written and occupy a place on its shelves. There is the book of your life lived in absolute poverty, and right next to it, the book of your same life lived in unimaginable wealth. There is the book where you die young from an illness, and the book where you live to be 100 with radiant health. There is the book of your life of loneliness, and that of your life of deep love. Every possible version of your reality is a book that already exists. Creation is complete. Your consciousness is the librarian, and your life is simply the sequence of books you choose to take off the shelf and read, thus bringing them into your three-dimensional experience. From this perspective, regret becomes illogical. You cannot change the book you have already read, but you are not condemned to reread it over and over again. Anxiety about the future also dissolves. You don't have to worry about whether the book of your success will exist. It already exists. It has already been written. Your only power, and it is an absolute power, lies in your ability to choose what book you are going to read now. The block universe, the scientific echo. This mystical vision finds a fascinating echo in the theoretical physics theory of the block universe, an idea that arises from Einstein's theory of relativity. This theory postulates that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Time does not flow from one moment to the next. Rather, the entire space-time continuum exists as a four-dimensional block, complete and immutable. The most common metaphor is that of a movie. Imagine a movie on a roll of film. The entire movie, the beginning, the middle, and the end, exists simultaneously on the roll. Our experience of time is simply the light of the projector, illuminating a single frame at a time, creating the illusion of a sequence and of movement. But the frame of tomorrow is as real and already exists on the roll as the frame of yesterday. In this view, your consciousness is the light of the projector, and your present moment is the frame you are choosing to illuminate with that light. The power of the present moment. If we accept this astonishing possibility, if all time exists simultaneously, then a truth of immense power is revealed. The past is not behind us, and the future is not in front. They are simply other coordinates on the map of the block universe, other sections of the film roll. This means that you cannot change your life by acting in the future, because the future is not a place you arrive at. The only point of power, the only place from which you can operate, the only frame you can change, is the now. The present moment is the portal. It is the projection booth. It is the only place from which you can withdraw your light from an unwanted frame and direct it toward a new one. You don't create a new future. You choose a different future that already exists, and you bring it into your present through the power of your perception and your feeling. The seer, in understanding this, stops living in time. He anchors himself in the eternity of the present moment, knowing that from this point of stillness, he has access to all moments. The seer knows that, although he cannot change the facts of the past, he has the absolute power to change its meaning and its impact on the present. The most powerful practice for this is the art of revision. The initiate, at the end of his day, does not go to sleep with the toxic residues of negative experiences. He enters the cinema of his mind and becomes the director of a new edit. He takes a scene from the day that caused him pain or frustration, an argument, a mistake, bad news, and in the stillness of his imagination, he rewrites it. He does not deny it. He transforms it. The conversation full of anger is rewritten as a dialogue of understanding and empathy. The seer imagines the words he would have liked to say and the ones he would have liked to hear. He feels the hug of reconciliation. The mistake made at work is rewritten as a scene of perfect execution. He feels the pride and satisfaction of a job well done. The bad news received is replaced by the news he wanted to receive. He feels the relief and the joy. The seer repeats this revised scene, charging it with all the feeling he can muster, over and over, until it feels more real than the original fact. What does this achieve? He is not practicing self-deception. He is performing a profound neurological and vibrational alchemy. He is replacing a memory that planted a seed of resentment or failure in his subconscious with a new memory that plants a seed of harmony and success. He is healing the past at a causal level, ensuring that that negative event does not become the parent of a negative future. The second practice, the assumption of the future in the now. The seer does not wait for the desired future to arrive. He brings it into the present through the portal of his imagination. This is the practice of living in the end. The master does not just think about his future success. In the stillness of his meditation, he becomes the person who has already achieved his goal. He closes his eyes to the world of the senses and opens the eyes of his soul. And from that place, he inhabits his new reality. He feels the weight of the pen with which he signs the contract that secures his financial freedom. He hears the sound of the keys to his new house turning in the lock. He smells the salty air of the ocean on the trip he has always dreamed of taking. But above all, he bathes in the emotion of that future already present. He immerses himself in the feeling of relief, of gratitude, of peace. He knows that by generating this feeling in the now, he is illuminating that specific frame on the film roll of time, commanding the projector of reality to manifest it. He is choosing, from the vast catalogue of the library, the book he wishes to read, and he starts reading it now. The third practice, the detachment from the clock. Finally, the seer learns to free himself from the tyranny of when. Once he has chosen and has felt his new reality in the present, he completely lets go of the need to know when it will appear in the three-dimensional mirror. He understands that the obsession with time is a form of doubt. It is the ego's voice asking the cosmic gardener, "Are you sure it's working? How much longer do I have to wait?" This vibration of impatience is a counter-command that delays manifestation. The master's practice is one of absolute trust in the law. Once he has impressed his subconscious with the new reality, he rests. He enters the mental Sabbath. His work is done, and he lives his day-to-day life in a state of active patience and confident expectation, knowing that the universe in its infinite intelligence is orchestrating the perfect sequence of events, the bridge of incidents, that will naturally and harmoniously lead him to the physical embodiment of his vision. You have torn the last and most subtle of the veils, the veil of time. You are no longer a prisoner of your past or a beggar of your future. You are the master of the eternal now, the librarian of existence, with the power to choose any story you wish to experience. Chapter 8. The Vision of Abundance. Before we can see abundance, we must first understand the nature of our blindness. Poverty consciousness, the state from which most of humanity operates, is not a lack of money. It is a form of perceptual blindness. It is a collective hallucination. The seer of scarcity is often swimming in an ocean of opportunities but dying of thirst. His inner lens, carved by generations of fear and limitation, is programmed to filter out evidence of abundance and to magnify evidence of lack. This perception is supported by 4 illusory pillars. Focus on lack. The scarcity mind is an expert at finding what is missing. He can be at a banquet, but his attention will fixate on the only empty plate. He can have 1,000 blessings, but his inner dialogue will obsess over the single problem he faces. He scans the world, not in search of what is right but of what is wrong. Belief in the zero-sum game. This is the pillar of competition. The belief that wealth is a finite resource like a pie. If someone takes a large slice, there is inevitably less for others. This perception turns life into a struggle, others into rivals, and the success of others into a threat. The comparison trap. The seer of scarcity never looks at his own life from his own center. He is always measuring it against an external image, his neighbor's success, the idealized lives on social media. His sense of worth and prosperity is never absolute. It is always relative. And in the game of comparison, there is always someone who has more, which guarantees a perpetual state of dissatisfaction, fear of loss. Finally, even when the seer of scarcity achieves some prosperity, he cannot enjoy it. His consciousness is dominated by the fear of losing it. He clings to his money, his possessions, with an energy of contraction, which, ironically, blocks the flow and often creates the very loss he fears so much. Living under these 4 pillars is to live in a perceptual prison, constantly projecting a reality that validates your own miserable worldview. The seer's journey is to demolish these pillars and consciously build a new way of seeing. The 7 qualities of the abundant vision. The abundant vision is not positive thinking. It is not ignoring challenges. It is a higher form of perception, one that sees through the illusions of the surface to connect with the deeper truth of an infinitely generous universe. This vision is cultivated through 7 perceptual qualities. 1. Seeing the invisible, the perception of potential. The seer of scarcity only sees what is, the manifested reality that his 5 senses present to him. The seer of abundance has trained his inner eye to see what could be. He sees beyond the current form and perceives the invisible potential. He looks at a barren lot and sees a flourishing garden. He looks at a struggling business and sees the opportunity for a brilliant restructuring. He looks at a problem in the market and sees the void that his idea can fill. This is the direct application of our understanding of the quantum field. The seer knows that the current reality is just one of infinite collapsed possibilities, and with his imagination, his inner eye, he focuses on a different, higher possibility, beginning to attract it toward manifestation. 2. Seeing value, the perception of service. The seer of scarcity is obsessed with getting money. His focus is on taking. The seer of abundance makes a fundamental perceptual shift. He stops looking for money and starts looking for value. He understands that money is simply an effect, a symbol of the exchange of value. His central question is no longer, how can I earn more, but how can I give more value? He becomes an expert at perceiving the unmet needs of others. He focuses on cultivating his own unique gifts so he can offer exceptional service. He understands that his prosperity will be directly proportional to the value he brings to the lives of others. This perceptual shift transforms the energy from taking, scarcity, to giving, abundance. And the universe, which is a system of flow, responds by flooding with resources the one who has become a source of value for the system. 3. Seeing the flow, the perception of circulation. The seer of scarcity sees money as a solid object, as something to be accumulated and protected. His greatest fear is that it will run out. The seer of abundance sees money not as a pond, but as a river. He understands that the energy of money, to be healthy, must circulate. It flows to him and it flows through him. He transforms the act of paying from an experience of loss into an act of gratitude. When paying a bill, he does not feel that he is losing money. He feels gratitude for the service received and blesses the money as it leaves, knowing that he is participating in the great cycle of circulation. Thank you for this service. I bless this money so that it may enrich everyone it touches, and I trust that by the law of flow it will return to me multiplied. This perception frees him from the fear of spending and from the energy of stinginess, which is one of the most potent scarcity vibrations that exists. Or seeing gratitude, the perception of wholeness. The seer of scarcity, by focusing on what is missing, lives in a state of dissatisfaction. The seer of abundance deliberately cultivates the art of seeing what is already there. He trains his eye to find evidence of abundance in his current life, no matter how humble it may be. He practices gratitude not as a mental exercise, but as a state of being. He feels a deep appreciation for the air he breathes, for the water he drinks, for the technology that allows him to listen to these words. He knows that gratitude is the vibrational signature of abundance. It is the frequency of reception. By tuning his being to gratitude, he is telling the universe, I am already in a state of wholeness. I am ready to receive more. 5. Seeing in the other, the perception of shared success. The seer of scarcity sees the success of others with envy. The seer of abundance sees it with inspiration. He understands that the universe is a mirror. The success of another person is not taking anything away from him. On the contrary, it is showing him what is possible. It is a reflection of a potentiality that also exists for him. Therefore, he genuinely celebrates the achievements of others. By doing so, he aligns himself with the frequency of success. He transmutes the contractive energy of envy into the expansive energy of celebration. He says to the universe, I love to see success. I am ready for my own. 6. Seeing from the end, the perception of assumption. The seer of scarcity looks at his current reality and uses it as proof that his future will be the same. The seer of abundance inverts the process. First, he defines the reality he chooses in his imagination, his wish fulfilled. And then he looks at his current reality through the eyes of that future person. He does not ask, how can I, a poor person, become rich? He asks, if I were already the immensely prosperous person I have chosen to be, how would I see this current challenge? How would I perceive this apparent lack? He would see the challenge not as a threat, but as a simple logistical problem to solve. He would see the lack not as a sentence, but as a temporary starting point. By adopting the perception of his future self, he begins to make the decisions and feel the emotions that correspond to that reality, thus collapsing it into his present. 10. Seeing with detachment the perception of the game. Finally, the seer of scarcity sees the creation of wealth as a life-or-death battle. Every decision is charged with fear and a crushing seriousness. The seer of abundance, in his highest state, sees it as a game. It is a divine game, a dance with energy. He knows that his true self, his consciousness, cannot be harmed by any financial loss. This perception frees him from the desperate need for a specific outcome. He plays to win, but with a lightness and joy that, paradoxically, make him a much more effective player. His detachment is magnetic. The initiate in the art of perception knows that his value is not something he must invent, but something he must unearth. He becomes an archaeologist of his own soul, searching in the layers of his history for clues to his unique gift, that treasure that has often been buried under the rubble of conditioning. This practice is not an exercise in logic, but an excavation of the heart. The master takes his journal, which is his treasure map, and follows 3 paths that lead to the heart of his purpose. The first path is the trail of childhood passion. The archaeologist travels back in time, to the age of 7 to 14, before the world told him what was practical, profitable, or respectable. And he asks himself the question, what did I love to do with a pure, unconditioned passion? What activity made me completely lose track of time? Perhaps it was drawing fantastical worlds, organizing his toys with meticulous precision, taking apart devices to see how they worked, or simply sitting and listening to the stories of the elders. In these childhood passions often lies the DNA of our natural genius, the purest expression of our soul before the inherited lens distorted it. The second path is the trail of sacred frustration. The master examines the world not with cynicism, but with the eye of a reformer, and he asks himself, what problem in the world, in my community, or in my industry, frustrates or outrages me in a way that makes me think, someone should do something about it and I know how it could be better. This is not an ordinary complaint. It is a sacred frustration. It is the voice of our soul pointing out an imbalance that we have come to heal, a chaos that we have come to bring order to. Your greatest frustration often points directly to your greatest contribution. The third path is the trail of effortless skill. The archaeologist takes an inventory of the skills that come so naturally to him that he does not even consider them skills. They are the things that others point out. You always know what to say to calm people down. You have an amazing ability to simplify complex ideas. You organize things in a way that makes perfect sense. Often our greatest gift is like water to a fish, so omnipresent in our being that we take its value for granted. The initiate writes down his discoveries from these three trails, and then he looks for the intersection. He looks for the point where his childhood passion, his sacred frustration, and his effortless skill converge. In that intersection, in that sweet spot, lies the heart of his unique value in the world. Once value has been discovered, it must be declared. The master does not wait for the world to place a price on it. He announces his value to the universe and to himself. This is the practice of creating a declaration of value, an affirmation of purpose that becomes the new fundamental law of his professional universe. It is not a marketing slogan. It is a decree born from inner archaeology. It could have a structure like this: my unique value resides in my ability to effortless skill, to solve the problem of sacred frustration in a way that fills me with childhood passion. For example, my unique value resides in my ability to organize information simply and beautifully, skill, to solve the problem of confusion and knowledge overload, frustration, in a way that reminds me of the joy of building orderly worlds with my toys, passion. The initiate takes this declaration and turns it into his mantra. He practices it in his mirror work, looking into his own eyes and recognizing his own genius. He repeats it in his meditation, feeling the vibration of his purpose in his body. This is not an act of arrogance. It is an act of alignment. It is the act of carving in the center of his lens a new and powerful inscription that defines his true identity. Finally, the master understands that value, to be real, must flow. It must be exchanged. And he consciously practices the two polarities of this flow, giving and receiving. First, he practices giving with detachment. He begins to offer his value to the world, not necessarily by quitting his current job immediately, but through a bridge project, as we have already seen. He begins to share his gift, not from the need to get a reward, but for the simple joy of expression. He writes the article, offers the advice, creates the prototype. He does it as a gift, detached from who receives it or how it is received. This act of giving without need is an incredibly potent vibration of abundance. Second, and often more difficult, he practices receiving with grace. When the universe, in response to his value, begins to send him the reflection in the form of money, opportunities, or appreciation, the initiate must learn to receive it. When he receives a payment for his service, he does not feel guilt or unworthiness. He pauses, and in silence he says, "Thank you. I accept this energy as a fair reflection of the value I have offered. I deserve this." When someone gives him a compliment, instead of deflecting it, he receives it. He lets it in and he simply says, "Thank you." This practice of receiving with grace heals the lens of unworthiness and teaches the subconscious that it is safe and good to be prosperous and valued. It closes the circuit of flow, allowing the abundance that goes out in the form of value to return in the form of wealth. Your value is not a number on a job contract. It is the unique light that only your consciousness can project into the world. It is not something you earn with effort. It is something you reveal with self-knowledge. It is not something the world gives you. It is the gift that you give to the world. Stop asking yourself how much you are worth and start asking, how can I serve with the infinite value that I already am? In the answer to that question, you will not only find your purpose, but the mirror of prosperity will have no choice but to reflect your own radiant magnificence. Chapter 9. The Perception of Opportunity. You have unearthed the diamond of your unique value. You have learned to perceive and declare the truth of your inner genius. You now hold in the hand of your consciousness the treasure of your purpose, brilliant and full of infinite potential. But a diamond, no matter how perfect if kept in a dark drawer, illuminates nothing. It must be placed in a place where it can capture and refract the light. In the same way, your unique value, in order to manifest as prosperity in the world, must find the perfect setting. It must find the opportunity to express itself. And here we encounter one of the deepest and at the same time most frustrating paradoxes of the human experience. The universe is literally and infinitely flooded with opportunities, but most of us walk through life completely blind to them. We live in a vast and leafy forest of possibilities, but our inherited lens, the scarcity lens, forces us to focus all our attention on the single dry tree of our current problem. We complain that there are no opportunities without realizing that we are standing in the middle of an ocean of them, dying of thirst. Opportunity is not something that is found by luck. It is something that is perceived. And perception, as we already know, is not a passive act of receiving information. It is an active act of creation. The world you see is the world your lens allows you to see. To attract more opportunities into your life, you don't have to change your location. You have to change your lens, the four veils that obscure opportunity. Our blindness to opportunity is not a birth defect. It is the result of a series of filters, of perceptual veils that we have learned to place over our eyes. To be able to see, we must first understand what blinds us. 1. The veil of preconception, the old map. The first and thickest of the veils is our belief that we already know the map of reality. We cling to our preconceived ideas about how things work. We believe we know which paths are possible and which are impossible. Business opportunities only exist in the tech sector. To succeed, you have to have a college degree and follow a corporate career path. At my age, it's too late to start something new. These preconceptions are the borders of our world. They act as the guardian of our reticular activation system, automatically filtering and discarding any opportunity that doesn't fit the old map. A revolutionary idea can be presented to us, but if it doesn't look like anything we've seen before, our brain labels it as error or danger and doesn't even allow us to consider it. The initiate in the art of perception cultivates a beginner's mind. He practices the humility of questioning his own certainties, knowing that the moment he believes he knows everything, he has closed the door to the infinity of possibilities he does not know. 2. The veil of fear, the threat lens. Fear is the most paralyzing veil of all. Its primary function is survival, and to fulfill it, it stains our lens with the color of threat. Fear does not see the world as a field of opportunities, but as a minefield. When an opportunity presents itself, the lens of fear does not see the potential for gain. It obsesses over the potential for loss. An investment opportunity is not seen as a door to wealth, but as a risk of losing savings. An opportunity to lead a new project is not seen as a platform to shine, but as a public exposure to failure and criticism. An opportunity for a new relationship is not seen as an adventure of love and connection, but as the inevitable prelude to a future broken heart. Your subconscious mind, in its attempt to protect you, will actively make you blind to opportunities that your lens of fear has labeled as dangerous. It is a mechanism of self-preservation. The problem is that it is protecting you from life itself. To be able to see opportunities, you must first be willing to feel insecure. You must be willing to accept that all growth resides just on the other side of the border of fear. Through the veil of I'm not ready, perfectionism. This is the most subtle and seductive veil for the ambitious mind. Unlike the veil of fear which makes us flee, this veil makes us wait. We see an opportunity. Our heart races. We know it's for us. But immediately, the lens of perfectionism intervenes and whispers the most paralyzing lie of all. I'm not ready yet. I need to take one more course before I can launch my business. I need to lose 10 pounds before I can start looking for a partner. I need my product to be absolutely perfect before I can show it to the world. We wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect version of ourselves. But the perfect moment never arrives. It is an illusion. And while we wait, the window of opportunity, which is always temporary, gently closes. The master creator understands that preparation is important, but that imperfect action is infinitely more powerful than perfect inaction. He knows that you don't prepare for the opportunity and then seize it. He knows that you launch yourself into the opportunity and prepare as you go. Clarity and competence do not come before action, they come through action. 4. The veil of disguise. Opportunity as a problem. Finally, the most deceptive veil of all is the one that prevents us from recognizing opportunities, because they rarely present themselves as such. Life's greatest and most transformative opportunities almost always arrive in disguise, and their favorite disguise is that of an insurmountable problem. The economic crisis that destroys an industry is not just a problem, it is the opportunity to create the industry of the future. The impossible client who complains about everything is not just a problem. It is the opportunity to get the most honest and valuable feedback to improve your service. The illness that forces you to stop your life is not just a problem. It is the opportunity to reevaluate your priorities and to connect with your power of self-healing. The scarcity lens only sees the problem, the crisis, the difficulty. It contracts, complains, and paralyzes. The abundance lens has learned to look through the disguise. It knows that behind every great problem, an opportunity of equivalent or greater magnitude is hidden. It asks, what void in the market is this problem revealing? What unmet need is screaming to be addressed? These 4 veils, preconception, fear, perfectionism, and disguise, are what create our blindness. They are the cataracts in the eyes of our soul. The work of the optician is not to look harder in the external world, but to perform the internal surgery to remove these veils. The change in perception from seeking to seeing. The fundamental change we must make is to stop seeking opportunities and start seeing them. Seeking implies that opportunities are rare, that they are hidden, and that we must struggle to find them. It is an activity born of scarcity. Seeing, on the other hand, is a state of receptivity. It is born from the belief that opportunities are infinite and are everywhere, like the air we breathe. Our only job is not to hunt, but to adjust our vision. And this adjustment, this cleansing of our lens, is an inner work. It is the result of the alchemy we have been exploring, dismantling our limiting beliefs, healing our emotional wounds, and, above all, cultivating a state of being of abundance. When your inner vibration changes, your perceptual filter changes with it. When you feel worthy, you begin to see the opportunities that correspond to your worth. When you feel abundant, you begin to see the abundance that surrounds you. It's not about changing the world. It's about allowing yourself at last to see the world that is already there, waiting for you to discover it. The alchemical workshop, cultivating the eye of opportunity. The initiate in perception knows that the world does not need to change for them to see opportunity. They know that the only necessary change is internal. They retreat to their workshop, not to build something new, but to remove the veils that obscure their vision. The first practice, the dissolution of certainty. The first and thickest of the veils, preconception, is dissolved with the acid of intellectual humility. The master knows that certainty, the belief that you already know everything, is the most comfortable cage and at the same time the most limiting. To be able to see new possibilities, you must first have the courage not to know. Their practice is the Socratic questioning of their own assumptions. When faced with a deeply held belief about how things should be in their industry or life, they ask themselves with genuine curiosity, what if this were not a universal law, but simply a collective habit? What if the opposite were possible? What would that look like? This simple act of questioning the unquestionable opens cracks in the wall of their perceptual reality, allowing the light of new ideas to begin to filter through. In addition, the initiate deliberately practices seeking novelty. They know that a brain that is only exposed to the same stimuli over and over again creates the same neural connections and therefore has the same thoughts. To shake up their perceptual patterns, they consciously expose themselves to ideas and environments that are outside their comfort zone. They read books about industries they don't know, travel to places with different cultures, and talk to people who have worldviews opposite to their own. They do it not to accumulate more knowledge, but to keep the clay of their mind soft and malleable, to create the possibility of new and surprising synaptic connections, which are the cradle of all innovation. The second practice, the transmutation of fear into a compass. The master does not try to eliminate fear. He knows it is an intrinsic part of human biology, a guardian impossible to banish. Instead, he transmutes it. He learns to use fear not as a stop sign, but as a compass. The practice is an act of real-time reframing. When a new opportunity appears, and the initiate feels the inevitable contraction of fear in their body, they do not flee. They do not get distracted. They pause, they breathe, and with a cultivated calm, they dialogue with their fear. They ask it, "Are you a warning of a real objective danger to my survival, or are you simply the guardian of my comfort zone, the dragon that guards the next level of my expansion?" 9 times out of 10, the honest answer is the second. And the moment he recognizes this, the energy of fear is transformed. It is no longer a signal of danger, retreat. It becomes a neon green arrow that is pointing him in the exact direction he needs to go to grow. The initiate learns to walk toward the feeling of calculated fear, knowing that the cave he is afraid to enter contains the treasure he seeks. The third practice, the cultivation of good enough. To dissolve the paralyzing veil of perfectionism, the master creator replaces the pursuit of perfection with a commitment to iteration. He understands that the universe is a laboratory of feedback. You cannot get the information you need to perfect your creation if you keep it locked away in the secrecy of your workshop. The practice, therefore, is to launch the idea, the product, the version of yourself into the world when it is good enough. The initiate adopts the minimum viable product mindset. He creates the simplest version of his idea that can provide value and shares it with a small group. And then he listens. He listens to feedback from the real world. What works, what doesn't work, what needs to be improved. And with that information, he returns to the workshop, improves the creation, and launches it again. This cycle of creating, launching, listening, and improving is infinitely more powerful than the perfectionist cycle, which is create, doubt, never launch, and die with the idea intact. Imperfect action is infinitely superior to perfect inaction. The fourth practice, the X-ray vision. Finally, to see through the disguise of opportunities, the initiate trains his perception to become an X-ray vision. He cultivates the habit of looking beyond the surface of problems and searching for the structure of need hidden underneath. Faced with any crisis, complaint, or frustration, whether his own or what he observes in the world, the master asks himself 2 alchemical questions. What fundamental problem is this situation revealing? What is the real, deep pain hidden behind this superficial complaint? What product, what service, what solution, what act of value could I create to solve this problem at its root? With this constant practice, the world ceases to be a place full of frustrating problems and is transformed into an ecosystem full of business, service, and creation opportunities. Every complaint he hears is a clue. Every crisis is an invitation. His lens no longer sees barriers. It only sees voids in the market that his unique value can fill. Opportunity is not a needle in a haystack. It is the haystack itself. It is everywhere, in every conversation, in every problem, in every moment. It is not something you find by luck. It is a way of seeing. When you cleanse the lens of your old beliefs, when you learn to look at the world not with the eyes of fear, but with the eyes of possibility, you stop being a seeker of opportunities. You become a magnet for them. The world, your faithful mirror, begins to reflect your new and clear vision, showing you the way at every step. You have learned to perceive the value in yourself and the opportunity in the world. You have polished your lens. Now, to magnetize these opportunities and attract them to you with astonishing speed and grace, you must tune your being to the highest frequency of the universe. In the next chapter, we will explore the power of the gratitude lens. Chapter 10. The Unified Vision. The Culmination. The seer's journey is not an accumulation of knowledge, but a process of detachment. It is a path of letting go, one by one, of the veils of limited perception. And in this final stage, the last veil that must fall is the idea of the seer itself. As long as there is an eye that sees reality, a subtle separation still exists. There is still an observer and something observed. The unified vision is the dissolution of this last boundary. It is the mystical realization that the seer and the seen, the creator and the creation, consciousness and the universe, are not two separate things. They are one, the three pillars of unified vision. This state of consciousness, the pinnacle of the journey, is supported by three fundamental realizations, three pillars of a truth that transcends logic and can only be experienced. 1. The pillar of non-duality. The observer is the observed. The first and deepest realization is that of the principle of non-duality. In the lower levels, we see the world as a set of external objects and events that our internal consciousness perceives. We believe that the problems we see in the world, war, poverty, disease, are out there. The Master Seer arrives at a much more radical and immensely responsible understanding. He realizes that the world he sees is nothing more than a projection of his own state of consciousness. The problems he sees in the world are a reflection of the conflicts that still reside within him. The ugliness he perceives is an echo of a part of himself that has not healed. As the great philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti taught, the observer is the observed. You are not separate from the problem you are seeing. You are the field of consciousness in which the problem is appearing. Therefore, trying to change the world out there without changing the state of consciousness in here is a futile act. The seer who has embodied this truth stops being a reformer of the world and becomes an alchemist of his own soul. He knows that the only way to bring peace to the world is by becoming the embodiment of peace. The only way to heal suffering is by healing the suffering in his own consciousness. His work is no longer to do something on the outside. His work is to be something on the inside, knowing that his state of being is the most powerful contribution he can make to the collective. This is the quantum physics of the spirit. You don't just attract your desire, you realize that you and your desire are quantumly entangled. They are two facets of the same consciousness. Your job is to dissolve the illusion of distance within your own being. 2. The pillar of timelessness. Creation is finished. The second realization is the dissolution of the tyranny of linear time. As we have explored, the seer learns to see that the past, present, and future are not a straight line, but coexist as potentialities in the eternal now of the quantum field. In the unified vision, this ceases to be a theory and becomes a lived experience. The master no longer lives in memory or in anticipation. He anchors his consciousness completely in the vast immensity of the present moment, knowing that this moment is the only portal to all realities. His relationship with the past is transformed. It is no longer a source of regret, but a vast library of experiences that he can access, not to relive the pain, but to extract the wisdom. He uses the art of revision to change the meaning of the old chapters, thus healing their impact on the now. His relationship with the future is transformed. It is no longer a source of anxiety or hope. It is a catalogue of possibilities that he can choose in the present. His way of creating the future is not by worrying about it, but by choosing the state of being he wishes to experience now. The master lives with the certainty that creation is already finished. His job is not to build a future, but to align himself with the future he chooses. And that alignment always, and inevitably, occurs at the only point of power that exists, the present moment. Fourth pillar of causeless joy, being as bliss. And here we come to the final realization, the one that puts an end to all searching. In the lower levels of consciousness, happiness is always conditional. I'll be happy when I get the money. I'll be happy when I find love. Joy is seen as the result of an external manifestation. The seer who has reached the unified vision discovers the simplest and most profound truth. Joy is not a result, it is the starting point. He realizes that the fundamental nature of pure consciousness, of the I am that resides within him, when not veiled by the stories of the mind, is unconditional peace and joy. It is what Eastern traditions call Satchitananda, absolute existence, consciousness, and bliss. Happiness is not something you get. It is what remains when you let go of everything that you are not. From this realization, the engine of manifestation is reversed. The initiate no longer tries to manifest things to be happy. Instead, he dedicates himself to cultivating and inhabiting his natural state of joy and peace. And from that state of wholeness, he discovers that the things he once pursued with so much effort, wealth, relationships, opportunities, begin to manifest in his life naturally and effortlessly, not as goals to be achieved, but as inevitable reflections of the joy he is already radiating. Joy ceases to be the prize at the end of the game. It becomes the way you play the game. These three realizations, non-duality, timelessness, and causeless joy, are the facets of the unified vision. They are proof that the seer has completed his journey home to the truth of his own being. The workshop of the unified self, the practice of non-practice. We have explored the three great realizations that define the unified vision: non-duality, timelessness, and causeless joy. But how do you live from this summit? What is a day in the life of someone who has embodied these secrets like? The answer is paradoxical. The master's practice is no longer a series of techniques that he does at a specific time. His entire life becomes a practice, a moving meditation. The techniques, visualization, affirmations, were the scaffolding needed to build the building of his new consciousness. Once the building is finished and solid, the scaffolding can be removed. The practice is no longer something he does, but something he is. This state of mastery, of embodiment, is supported by three living pillars. The first pillar, anchored presence, living the I am. The basis of a masterful life is presence. The seer has trained his attention to the point that he can maintain a double-focus consciousness. One part of his attention is engaged with the task at hand, with the conversation he is having, with the world of form. But another part of his attention always remains anchored in the silent background of his own being, in the feeling of the I am. It is like a master musician who, while playing an incredibly complex melody, is always aware of the tonic note, the harmonic center that holds the whole piece together. This constant connection to inner silence is what allows him to move through the world of noise without being swept away by it. The initiate's integrated practice is constant anchoring. In the middle of a business meeting, he feels the energy in the room, but he also feels the calm in his own chest. As he walks through a bustling city, he observes the external chaos, but he is also aware of the silent space of his own presence. In a difficult conversation, he listens to the other's words, but he also listens to the silence beneath them, the essence that communicates beyond language. This double focus is the anchor that keeps him at the pendulum's point of suspension, allowing him to experience life fully without getting lost in it. The second pillar, intuitive alignment, action from the self. The master no longer makes decisions based solely on the ego's logic or on lists of pros and cons. He has learned to trust a higher form of intelligence, the one that emanates from the field of unity. His decision-making process is based on alignment. The practice is the alignment question. Faced with any choice from the smallest to the most momentous, the seer does not ask himself, "What is best for me?" He asks himself, "What choice feels most aligned with the being that I know I am? What path resonates with greater expansion, with greater truth, with greater love?" Sometimes the alignment answer will seem completely illogical to the rational mind. It may ask him to leave a secure but soulless job, or to initiate a vulnerable conversation that his ego fears. But the master has learned, through experience, that the path of alignment, though sometimes the most difficult in the short term, is always the path of least resistance in the long term. It is the path that the river of life wants to take through him, and he has learned to trust that current. The third pillar, playful creation, life as art. Finally, the seer who lives from the unified vision transforms his relationship with life itself. Having found causeless joy in his own being, he no longer needs his creations to give him happiness, and this, paradoxically, makes him the most powerful creator. The practice is that of playful creation, inspired by the Hindu concept of Lila, or the divine play. The master understands that the universe is not a serious problem to be solved, but a work of art to be created. His life becomes his canvas. He plays his roles in the world, that of a professional, a parent, a friend, with total excellence and presence, but with an inner lightness. He knows it is a sacred game. His service to the world is no longer a forced should. It is the natural overflow of his own wholeness. His cup is so full of peace, love, and wisdom that it inevitably spills over and nourishes the ground around him. The form of his service is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the source from which it emanates. The unified vision is not reaching a static state of human perfection. It is the beginning of a life lived as art. It is the endless dance between being and doing, between the silence of the mountain and the music of the marketplace. You have received the map. You have torn the 7 veils. You have reached the summit, and from here you realize with a serene smile that the goal was never the summit. The goal was the transformation that occurred in the ascent. Now, only one thing remains: to gather everything you have learned, not as knowledge, but as your own essence, and to walk back into the world, not as a seeker, but as a response. Our journey began with veiled eyes, perceiving only the shadows of reality, believing we were mere spectators of a play already written. And along this path, we have torn away, one by one, the veils of illusion. We tore away the veil of solidity to discover a universe of consciousness. We tore away the veil of the mirror to recognize our own face in the world. We tore away the veil of silence to hear the vibration of existence. And finally, we tore away the veil of time to find our power in the eternal now. The seer's journey was not to acquire a new power. It has been a journey of remembrance. The power to see, the power to create, was never lost. It was only veiled by our own perception. The final truth, the one you must carry with you from today on, is not that you are now a seer. The truth is that you always have been. You don't have to change the world. You just have to see it with new eyes. And in doing so, the world will change for you. Your journey does not end with the end of these words. It is now that your true vision begins. Your practice from this moment on is simple. Look at the world, yourself and others, not with your old eyes of judgment and limitation, but with the awakened eyes of the soul. You have learned the art of seeing. Now live as the vision you are. If this journey of revelation has opened your eyes to a new reality, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more wisdom that awakens. Like this video as a declaration of your new vision. Share this journey with someone who is ready to open their own eyes. Thank you for your time, for your courage, and for the brave decision to become the seer of your own life.